welcome everybody to today's Coach-a-thon.
This is Kirsten and I'm Rennie.
This is Rennie and I'm Kirsten.
Yeah. We should introduce ourselves.
We should actually.
Everybody doesn't know who we are.
No?
We have strangers on
We
here.
do. We actually do. There's a few
Yeah.
names we don't know. Hello everybody. It is so nice to see you here today. And yeah, clearly by the response that we've gotten so far, a hot topic for people, relationships. And you know, I put on, I wrote a blog, which I will be posting probably later today, where the title is drama inevitable in relationships? So we were just in Ashland, Oregon, not this last weekend, the weekend before, and we attended a wedding, and it was a Jewish wedding, and so there was a lot of Jewish rituals with it. And one of the rituals was that we went, you know, Rennie went with the guys into the guys' room, and the girls went all with the bride into a separate room. And part of that ritual was, you know, let's bless the bride and give her basically advice, you know, and give her what do we wish for her. And you know, in the beginning it was the sweet, you know, we wish you love and we wish you laughter and joy, right? And everybody, yeah. And then it started getting into, and we wish you patience. Oh yeah, patience. The whole room would like groan in in commiseration. And you know, I said something like unconditional respect, and the gal who was leading the ritual, she's like, even in the difficult situations. So it was like this sense, and this kept going on again and again, and there was this like collective agreement and collective like, yep, the drama and the trauma will happen. It's gonna happen, absolutely. And so, you know, here's our best advice for that. And I thought that was so interesting to feel into this collective belief, collective understanding that when you're in a relationship, drama and trauma will show up. You will get into your stuff. You will get triggered. You will ... And yes, at the current stage of awareness, I would actually agree with that. And as we look at who the new humanity is and who we are choosing to become and what it means to make a conscious evolutionary leap, and you know, we use this word, try to become more spiritually mature, does drama and trauma really still become inevitable? Or is there actually deep, profound understandings where we understand, A, the nature of this reality, that's the really biggest one, and some base key principles by which we can operate, where all of a sudden the need for drama will go away. The patterns of drama go away, and you deal with issues very, very differently. Do you want to add it? I don't want to be monologue. I could monologue about this one forever. So I'm going to give Rennie a little time to talk to. And I just want to say, so really have questions. You know, we're going to talk, you know, for just to give everybody kind of a sense for where we're coming from. And then we just want to open up the mics and bring you on and really have a conversation with you. Bring your issues, what's going on in your relationship world. And it doesn't have to be a love relationship. It can be a business relationship, or, you know, relationship with your children. This is universal in terms of how we as humans interact with each other. And so that's really what's here today. So, yeah.
Well, the number one thing for me is that you really have to decide if you want to change yourself. Here's the deal with, let's say, love relationships. at the end of the day, the problem is the other person. That's just the problem. They don't understand you. They don't hear you. They do their own thing. They don't give you respect. And so the way to basically work it out and to mend it and to fix things and get back together again, because it started great, but now how do we get back? And so if it was like the two of us, my whole approach would be, if I could just change her, if I could just change her, that would be the whole solution. If she would just adjust a little here, a little there, or a lot over there, and so the question really is for you to ponder, if that's really the case with you. Where do you begin in a relationship? I mean, you go to the marriage counselor, and what is it that you're talking about? Is it really the focus is on yourself? You're the issue, or is the focus on the other person? And so pretty much every time it's the focus is on the other person. And so it really doesn't matter. I mean, you can break up, you can leave and you can leave in a big fit. You can throw lawyers behind yourself to support you in your divorce, and you can be absolutely, I'll never do that again. Here's the guarantee: you will do it again. You will do it again and again and again and again, because the whole issue is always in you. So we're going to basically introduce today a view of reality. And I would just say that this is, we have an emerging science to support this, but it's not completely there yet. We have millions and millions of people who believe this, or who authors who teach this, but we're at a place where in ourselves where we're actually going to figure out the nature of reality. So here's how human beings see the world right now. Pretty much everybody. The world outside myself is real. Okay, it's real, it's solid, it's certainly independent of myself. Bad things happen for no reason at all. And basically, I have to kind of protect myself from the unknowns of the world outside myself, okay? This is, welcome to the human race. This is how we see the world. Now, it turns out in science, in physics, that is a 100% misunderstanding. This world is a psychological construct whose origin is yourself. There is nothing going on in your life at all that does not have the origin in the 60,000 thoughts across your own brain every single day. So that is really worth pondering. So here's how the world really works. Now, we get little glimpses of this, all of us do. The world is a hall of mirrors, reflecting back to you your own thoughts and perceptions. Yeah, take that in. I mean, really sit with that for a minute, This whole world is a hall of mirrors reflecting back to you your own thoughts and perceptions. So how you see the world, that's how you're going to experience the world. If you think one thing's going to get you, or something else will get you, or this is a victim world, whatever you fear, that's what you're going to attract. And here's the really, this is a monumental statement. Whatever you condemn, that's what you're going to experience. Oh my God. So yeah.
Let me give some examples.
All right.
So rather than just giving theory, let me give you some very real experiences that, from my perspective. So, Rennie and I have been together for just about 12 years now. And, I call myself a recovering German. Actually, now I call myself a recovered German. I'm claiming that now. But I came from the training, especially from my dad's side, that you meddle in everybody else's business all the time. So when you're living with somebody in the same space, there's like these feelers out all the time. Are they doing it, quote unquote, right? what does right mean from my perspective, right?
Mhm.
So it's like there's always a vigilance about what the other person is doing. And so I received that treatment when I was a child. And so when Rennie and I got into a relationship, I started doing that to him. I started watching, how is he in the kitchen? Is he cleaning up after himself? Oh no, he's spilled on the floor again. The toilet seat is up, and and on it goes. And so my irritation ego, I call her irritable Ida, was up a lot in the beginning of our relationship, and through a good chunk of it, I just could not. I would notice her, but I would not be able to observe her, meaning just see her in me, but not become it. I would get very snippy, snipey, and if you think about some relationships, maybe your own, or when you watch some other relationships, there's a lot of snipping and sniping going on. That those little barbed things that where you're trying to make a point, but you're really not making it. You're making it sort of underhanded. So I would do quite a bit of that. Poor Rennie. I am so sorry, but you created your reality too. But, but anyway, but what I started understanding is, because I, in my own perception, in my own thoughts, was expecting him not to do things right my way, guess what I was getting? I was getting the mirror reflection back of behavior that really was saying he's not doing it right. So this is what Rennie means by our thoughts and our perceptions create what we draw into our experience, and then we get to have our ego emotional reaction, which in my case was irritation. And so I remember the moment where that started shifting for me. I started really getting a hang of, I saw the ego, I saw the irritation. There was definitely that emotional reaction. So I started seeing it, and rather than becoming it, just really looking at it. And guess what? All of a sudden, the behaviors that so irritated me in the beginning started just disappearing. I mean, Rennie all of a sudden didn't do the things anymore that were irritating to me. And it was such an aha for me of how, when we change our perception, when we see what's going on inside of us and change that, our external experience changes completely. So just wanted to bring that in as an example.
So let's just continue this and say, let's say we really wanted to step into a relationship that worked. What would be some of the principles we would be looking at from the physics of the reality? How this is just how it works. I'm sorry if it's upsetting, because this is the way it is, So you have a reaction. Somebody triggers you, and you're in a relationship. The person that you're in a relationship triggers you, and you have a reaction. The first question is, where is the reaction? The reaction is in you. So, I mean, think about it. The first thing that happens when you get triggered is you're upset with the person who's triggering you. You're not noticing that the reaction's in you, nor do you understand or recognize that behind every reaction you ever have about anything whatsoever is always a negative ego pulling your strings. It's the very ego in you that has drawn to you this experience. So the person who's triggered you, I mean, the honest response would really have to be, thank you for showing me a window into myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the next thing is that you now, instead of now jumping in, oh my God, look at me, what is wrong? No, that's not it either. You basically, this is something you created. It's an identity that served a purpose at some earlier time. And so you want to edit this ego that's pulling your strings. So how do you edit yourself? I mean, first and foremost it is always about yourself. It's not about the other person. You got to get this, you know. I mean, if you want to get out of the fights and out of the arguments, this is the fundamental turning point. It really is. So you basically want to see your reaction rather than be your reaction. So you're not upset with yourself. You just see it. That's all. Just see it, notice and observe. That's it. You kind of step aside and you look at yourself and you see it. Oh, there's my irritable ego. There's my sabotage ego. There's my poor me ego. There's my Ronnie Righteous ego. There's my goody two-shoe ego. You see it and you name it, but you're not it. You don't become it. You just see it. And now you have control over it. Now you can edit it. You can give it a new job. You can let it go. You can clear decks inside yourself. Now, as you do this, so here's the first thing. You're never in judgment of your partner about anything. Okay, there's no more judgment. I mean, anytime you judge another person, partner, business person, I mean, anybody, stranger, you know, it registers as in your own body chemistry. It's a judgment on your own body. Every single judgment we have of another person. So the reality that we're describing, which is the reality we live in, beckons us to the unconditional state. Okay, rather than point the finger and judge and be harsh and everything, we basically find everything interesting. We're not triggered by anything. If we are triggered by anything, we immediately know it's a golden opportunity because it's in ourselves. That's what's drawn it to ourselves. So what Kirsten just said is so profound if you think about it. Do you really have to change the other person? What happens to the other person as you transform yourself? Really, what happens? It is possible the other person may leave. That's possible. Or the other person transforms right before your eyes. I tell you this, is going to be one or the other. Okay, because the reflection of this person is no longer serving you. The person just reflecting to you yourself, your own self-image is all that's being reflected to you. So by working on yourself, transforming yourself, stepping into your own beauty, and realizing that trust is a unitary issue, it has nothing to do with someone else. If you don't trust something, that's in you. So you literally learn to love the person when she comes, and you love her when she goes, because the beauty and the love were always in yourself. So this is a game changer. This is the great turning of the human race. This is the key to the prison door of the entire human condition, right here. And the nice thing about it is all been recorded.
So I wanted to address a little bit those of you who are trained in different communication modalities, you know, compassionate communication. And there are, you know, numerous ones of those. And believe me, I have done my fair share of that kinds of a training. What is underlying most of those conversations, though, is that no matter how compassionate we get, no matter how subtle we get with it, generally there's always still the essence of, you did something to me and I need to talk to you about that. We need to have a conversation about what you just did to me so that we can clear it up. We come to the wonderful spiritual opening together as we work through this and maybe get to forgiveness and all of that. And then we can move on in our relationship. So here's what happened in the beginning when we first got together. In my blog I wrote, first infuriating and then utterly invaluable. So here's Kirsten. Kirsten gets triggered, right? So she comes to Rennie and says, we need to talk. There's something that happened and we need to talk, right? And from all my previous relationship training. The other person normally comes, and then we sort of have a little bit of a push. Sometimes a lot of a push. You know, that's when arguments come and one person pushes and the other person pushes back, or we have compassionate communication and it's just like this, right? Here's what Rennie did. Kirsten comes, Rennie, we need to talk. Rennie goes, and he didn't say this, okay? I want to be clear on this. He wouldn't say this, but this was the message. He's like, I see that you're triggered. Why don't you go deal with your trigger, see what emotional reaction and what ego behind that emotional reaction is pulling your strings right now. Figure out what that is, clear it out, and then if we need to talk about something that has to do with living in the same space and making it a harmonious space together, absolutely, I am here 100% to talk from that place. But I will not engage in your emotional trigger, right? So instead of coming and meeting me and pushing, I'd come in and he'd go, whoop, and what I called yesterday the Jedi move away. He would just Jedi move away. And I'm like, you get back here. We need to have a compassionate conversation right now, right? And he'd like, whoop, and in the beginning, that would drive me up a wall because, you know, I came from the training of you discuss everything. I'm triggered, so we figure it out together. And what the profoundness of this, what we're talking about is, and what I finally started learning is, when I'm triggered, it's in me. He didn't do anything to me. This is one of my own egos that reared its ugly head, or its beautiful head, because I got to see it. One other thing I want to say about that, be careful of Ronnie Righteous, that ego, that oftentimes is a secondary ego that comes when you get upset, then righteousness about being upset, or the justificator. Oh, that's another ego. So Ronnie Righteous and the justificator are often right behind, and they're the ones whispering in your ear that you're in absolute right order to be upset right now because here's the external evidence. He did something to me, right? Here it is. You have a right to be angry. You have a right to be irritated. He did mess up the floor. He did do this, or she was nagging, or whatever. Ronnie Righteous and justificator are two egos that come in behind emotional reactions so often, and they tell us we are right to feel the way we feel. And so those you also start observing and noticing and not becoming. It's like, thanks for sharing, but this ego is in me and I'm going to take care of it. And so all of a sudden, by each person taking responsibility for their own emotional reactions and their own thoughts and perceptions, all of a sudden you take away the drama completely. I mean, okay, in all, you know, transparency, we're not 100%. I'm not 100%. I'm going to talk about myself here. I have not yet mastered not going into egos yet. I have not. Am I a lot better than I was 12 years ago when we met? Yeah. Am I a lot better?
Yes, you are.
I am. I certainly do not react anymore. But, you know, every once in a while I have the, oh, okay, breathe. So, you know, it's a practice. We are in practice. The new humanity is about becoming aware, about waking up. And waking up means we start becoming more and more aware of what's going on in here, and figuring out how to make this leap of life, this next stage of awareness. We all have so much spiritual training, and we've all gotten to a really amazing place already. But there is so much more we get to do. Our journey has just begun. So, you know, if you're somebody who thinks you're like, oh yeah, I've figured it out now, I'm near enlightenment, or this is not the work for you, I'm gonna be honest with you. But if you can be in a completely humble space and say, humanity as a species is just now waking up, And we get to have the joy of now making the next evolutionary leap and figuring out how we can create this world together without the drama, without the trauma, without egos pulling our strings left and right. Wow, what kind of a world can we actually create? So,
there's lots of speakers and authors touring the United States today, and lots of turnouts and saying basically the same thing, that you create your own reality. It's one thing to say it, it's one thing to nod your head, yeah, I really agree with that. It is a completely new world to actually understand the physics, that you really are creating your own reality down to the tiniest detail. You take somebody who's a victim, who's in an abusive relationship. I mean, it almost seems cruel to talk about the physics of the reality, that somehow the victim has created something in herself or himself that is drawn to himself, an abusive relationship. But it happens over and over again. I mean, the first month is everything, there's no sense. The person who is the victim has no idea that the person who they're now in a relationship with is going to basically be abusive, verbally or physically. I mean, it doesn't seem that way. How could you know that? And now you're trapped. Now you're in this relationship. And so now the whole approach is assuming that you're a victim and that it's not your issue, it's the other person's issue. So, we understand the waves that this creates. We're just saying this is really the way it is. The victim has drawn to themselves a mirror reflecting their own victim mindset, their own victim egos inside themselves. And so by changing themselves, the abusive relation will end. Now, it might be they'll leave. It might be the other person will leave. It doesn't mean that the two people will stay together if they no longer are serving that reflective purpose. But it is so profound to get this, that you're creating your own reality down to the tiniest detail out of what is the origin of everything that you're experiencing. It's, again, the 60,000 thoughts across your own brain every day. It's your own thoughts and your own perceptions that are drawing to you your entire creation. Now, this is a complex subject. There's collective thoughts at work. There's things that are hidden in us that we don't know, like the subconscious and the unconscious mind. And then there's the ancestors that are contained within our physical mitochondria DNA. They have a voice. So uncovering who we are and basically taking control of everything pulling our strings is a deep work. We're not saying this is easy. We're not saying that this is just come to a seminar and now you're all fixed. We're not saying that at all. We're saying this is a lifetime work that is really supported by a global family, all of them, all of us on a journey to evolve. We are waking up. We are stepping into a new stage of awareness. This is the future of the human race, to actually figure it out, how this place works. Okay? Blame has no function at all. Why point the finger when everything's being created from yourself? That's not to say that when two people have a point of different perspectives about the house, they don't talk, or they just, they're just arrogant about each other. And I create my own reality. What's it got to do with you? No, you're in a relationship. You share. You work things out. But here's the thing. If the other person is saying something that triggers you, okay, that pushes you, that's in you. Now you've suddenly stumbled onto a golden opportunity. This is not a nightmare. This is not a time to rush to the marriage counselor. This is a time to look at yourself. You've drawn this to yourself. Thank you for showing me a window into myself. Really, what a concept. I mean, what an incredible new beginning this really is in the whole world of relationships. And all we can say is that we're on solid ground here. We're actually describing the physics of physicality. That's what we're describing. Anybody can argue, anybody can have any stage of awareness they want to have. I mean, I use the example of, the Middle Ages, when everybody knew for sure that the world was stationary in space and the sun orbited the Earth. And then one man, Nicholas Copernicus, he makes the case that, sorry, but everybody on Earth is misinformed. So let's ponder that actually this whole relationship discussion requires a new beginning. This entire understanding requires a shift. Get over the need to blame the other person, and let's change ourselves and see what happens.
And again, this applies not just to, partner, love relationships, marriages, in that arena. This applies to every single relationship that you have, be it business partnerships, be it the relationship with your children. Oh my, there is so much muck oftentimes in a parent-child relationship, and not allowing the child to have its own reality expression, and so this, as we're talking about this, really think about all of your different relationships and where does drama and trauma show up? Where do you get triggered? Where do you get to have your golden opportunity to see the egos that are pulling your strings? This is really, I've been coming more and more to this in my own. This is about liberation. This is about 100% empowerment. Oftentimes when we talk about this and people really go down the rabbit hole with this, it's just like, okay, so it's not anybody else's fault, so it must be my fault, right? They take it to that that guilt and shame thing of how could I possibly create this kind of a reality, right? And you want to stay away from that as well. Those are egos too. And so when I coach people, I like to pull more into the macro and really let people feel the perfection of each of our own unique evolutionary journey. You chose this journey for a very specific reason, for you to wake up in your own way. So who says that the homeless person on the street is somehow less evolved than the rich person in his castle? We all have our own unique journey, and we get to see the other person in their perfection, even if we see them in their ego expressions, right? So this is not about now turning to your partner and going, you're in an ego right now. I see you are being triggered. It's not about that either. And that's what happens oftentimes also in these kinds of, people are learning, to interact with each other and say, well, I create my own reality. You create your own reality. When you're triggered, when I'm triggered, there's an emotional reaction with an ego behind it. So that means you have an emotional reaction right now and an ego behind it. Let me point that out to you. You don't want to do that. Just love them unconditionally. And so one of the principles that, we have these 13 life principles that we teach as a framework for this new stage of awareness that we're talking about. And that principle is called listening, and it is one of the most powerful principles you can apply to any relationship. It's like your anchor to yourself when you are in a situation where all your triggers want to come up. You get defensive because maybe your partner is attacking you for something you're doing, and you want to defend yourself and you want to justify. Staying in the present moment and staying in listening is one of the most powerful states of being you can have. And basically there's 4 parts to the listening principle. So when you're speaking to somebody, you want to create like a loop with them, where normally when we're mindful and present with somebody, generally we receive. That's the energetic flow that we experience. We're just receiving them. What we're inviting you to do is actually be in complete, utter, focused attention with them. So you're literally sending yourself out to them. One of the big reasons for relationships being as messed up as they are is because people crave real attention. They crave attention. They want, and so they'll try to get attention any way they can, including doing hissy fits and whatever else not. And so if we can actually gift our partners full active attention, and you do it from your eye. So pick, there's one eye that is going to be the broadcasting eye. For me, I'm right-handed, so everything on my right side is the broadcasting, the sending out. Most likely, if you're a left-handed person, it's the other way around. And you can feel into that. But so I'm broadcasting with my right eye, looping around and receiving mindfully with the other eye. And then imagine the loop just, going back out the behind you and coming back in. So you're creating this incredible space with the other person where they feel completely heard, even though maybe you're not saying a word, but they're feeling heard, they're feeling listened to, they're feeling like you're absolutely present with them. Your brain is completely quiet, and that's the other thing. You don't want to be already thinking about what you're going to be saying next. Just being totally present with them is such a gift that you can give. The third part is what we call compassion without meddling. We oftentimes put a huge value on empathy, meaning we feel deeply what you feel and we take in what you're feeling. What we're actually inviting you to feel into is having compassion for where they're at, but knowing there's nothing to fix in them. They're in their perfection. Really feel into that and sort of scan your relationships and see, can you hold every single person in your reality in absolute utter perfection in where they're at and in their expression of their reality? But you can, if they're in pain in some way, you can have compassion. It's absolutely wonderful to hold that, but you don't have to fix anything. You don't have to take it on and become it. And, oh yeah, I so feel what you're feeling. We get into that sort of muck of that. So active attention, mindful presence, listening, compassion without meddling. And then what opens up is a transformation bridge that if they choose to step out of wherever they're at, they can do that. They can choose that, but it's there as a gift, and it's not there as a come on, you can do it. This is not a cheerleader thing. This is a new stage of awareness in being with each other. So that's the listening principle. It's the principle number 12, and it's truly one of the most powerful principles we teach. So
yeah, so we're really we're introducing things that I know resonate with lots of people. If you listen carefully, you, like what Kirsten just said, you may wonder, like, how could she talk this way? What is she talking about? Their eyes going, energy coming out of one eye, coming in the other. What is this?
Weirdo.
I can tell you this, you've never heard that before. And what's happening here, and we're just in full disclosure about it, information that is literally new to the world, that supports a new stage of awareness emerging in the world, has appeared. It's here. And to get your own sense of this, if this is true or not, I invite you to realize that there are people doing this kind of work all over the place. If you can find a place where new humanity is gathering, okay, where basically people are living by these principles and actually changing their awareness along the lines that we're talking about, it is really worthwhile to check that out. I mean, really, you will be, I mean, people are changing right before our eyes. They really are. I mean, we all are students of this. We all realize how far we have to go, what an immature stage of awareness humanity really is at. And yet for the human race to have a future, we have to make a leap. And a leap is possible here. I mean, a gigantic leap of understanding, answering the question finally, who am I? I mean, when you're listening, you're also potentially, with practice, able to generate a frequency that has never been in the physical world before. You know, I call it pure electrical life. It's life itself, you know, and you can generate it with know-how from your own body. And it's now the person on the receiving end gets to choose to accept your life or not. It's their choice. You're not imposing on them in any way. You're just making your gift of life available everywhere you go. And so this is just an extraordinary package of know-how that's coming into the world right now. And we're just providing a framework. This is the physics of our reality. That's what we're describing. This is the way it is. And now to basically step into this reality and to not be a victim of this reality, that's the know-how that's coming now. And thank God, it's really great.
Yeah, ultimate liberation, really. So let's open it up. Let's open it up to questions. What are you struggling with in relationships? Where can we help you break through to the other side so that you can actually implement these tools that we've been teaching? So if you're on webinar, unfortunately we can't take any of you phone call listeners. There's no way I can put you on. But raise your hand, please, when those of you who are on the webinar. Somewhere on your screen you should have a raise your hand. This is a coach-a-thon, so
don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Yeah, just people like you.
And you know, if somebody, you know, anybody who asks a question, really you're serving as an emissary for the whole group, because you know you're likely asking something that is important for the whole group to hear. So go ahead and raise your hand. There we go. All right, hold on, Alicia. Let me bring you on. There we go. Do we get to see your face?
Yes.
Right now we only see a picture.
I'm not sure if I realize how to put the video on. I figured it might
bottom
automatic.
bottom left there might be a symbol that has a camera.
It's not working.
Okay. Well, we see your little picture, so go for it. And how do you pronounce your name?
It's Alicia. You're very well.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hi, and I've been tuning in. I've had a little bit of trouble at the beginning of the webinar, but I definitely heard and enjoyed what you guys had to say for about the last 20 minutes. I'm trying to formulate a question. I suppose I've just been kind of sinking in and really reflecting with your words and feeling like they resonate very deeply for me. I feel like the only question that kind of comes to mind first and foremost is if it became so easily for me to recognize and feel the way that it seems we all kind of do when we're talking about these topics, you know, why does it seem so hard to other people to come to these realizations? And you know, how long will I stay concerned that like only a select few of us will kind of be so open-hearted in this way? If that makes is that a question? Makes any sense?
Yeah, that's a question.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, let me
Okay.
do one So, you know, the assumption that there's only going to be a select few of us, I'm going to let Rennie address, but, you know, I think that is something we need to let go and not hold as a belief. There are millions of us ready.
Yeah.
But, you know, the whole ego story needs to be understood in depth with your question. You know, really, egos were created for a very specific reason. So, you know, we all have something called a personality seat, and you can think of a personality seat like the cockpit of this thing called you, right?
Right.
And somebody has to be on that personality seat, otherwise you wouldn't survive. What the name that is on that personality seat is what we're calling your authentic self, and I'll let Rennie in a moment also explain that in a little bit more depth. But your authentic self is what has the name on your personality seat. Now, your authentic self cannot be there when you are in a chemistry of fear, and when you're in a chemistry of adrenaline and angst. And so
Correct.
basically what has happened over the development of humanity is that we would get more and more into fear. And so basically that personality seat was being abandoned. And so something had to be on there. So our psyche created a temporary mechanism to have something on that personality seat. And that's what we call egos. They were designed to be temporary. They were designed to be flushed out of the body. But over time, they became permanent. And then over more time, they started believing that's who you are. And so now you have this thing called your residual self-image that is basically the collection of everything you believe yourself to be. And it's pretty much egos and, you know, as Rennie was saying earlier, ancestors at your table and, you know, all kinds of other residents that we can't go into right now. And so some humans have a lot of that still to deal with. So their evolutionary journey may be in this moment to really root them out, to give themselves every opportunity to see every single one of them. So there may be a lot of egos that are there and showing up and in full blossom, and it seems like, oh my God, they're never gonna get this. But you don't know that. If they have the understanding of what we're talking about, who's not to say that all of a sudden they can just go through them, boom, 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 and really see them and clear them out. And then the other aspect to it is what we, the whole conversation around body chemistry. All emotional reactions put a body chemistry of adrenaline into your body, and we are highly, highly addicted to that chemistry. So, you know, all of you can probably relate to when you get into an emotional reaction, it is so frigging hard to get out of it sometimes. You just want to stay in it. It's like that's coursing through your body, and it's almost impossible to get out of it. But part of, or a lot of the work that we're doing is actually changing our body chemistry, letting the adrenaline stop flowing and bringing in the ability to turn on the endorphins, to turn on the dopamine, the serotonin, and actually change our body chemistry so that then we can actually make these shifts much, much more easily.
Yeah, so
That's really beautiful. Thank you.
there is a design to the physical universe. It's a deep issue, but the design is evolution. If you wanted to really know what your own evolutionary path has been, all the details are contained in your own body in the form of 23 pairs of chromosomes. So, you know, once upon a time, we were all in chromosome 1, and that took 300 million years to complete. Chromosome 5 was 500 million years to complete. Humans, the male-female project, I'll call it that, begins at chromosome 23. So that's the current stage. And what happens is that no one is making you evolve. Evolution is self-selecting. So you can choose to evolve or not. And no one intelligent views it as a right or wrong. And so you don't really look out into the world and see that, well, this person's not evolving, they're really screwed up. I mean, intelligence would never make that kind of judgment of another person. First of all, we have no idea what's going on with anybody. And there's 1,000 reasons for whatever it is that they're doing that we don't know. And so, but the reality is that we come to these stages of a chromosomal completion, and we're in the culmination stage of chromosome 23. And what does happen at this stage is that everyone has to make a choice. You can choose to evolve, or you can choose to stay where you are. There's no right or wrong about it. So you don't have to scan the world and basically, you know, get upset because people are choosing not to evolve. What you might want to do, though, is enjoy the company of people who do want to evolve. So as you develop your own intuitive abilities, which, by the way, for you are pretty good right now, you know, you just start giving yourself permission to quiet the brain and access the mind so you have knowingness about things. You can develop that to ask the question, well, how many people in the world are on a journey to evolve? How many are there? Doesn't make us better. It just, what's the number? And that number is right around 350 million people. You know, that's approaching the size of the United States. That's a critical mass. We can change everything with that. And right now, what we need to change is ourselves. You know, as far as everybody else concerned, it is really compassion without meddling. That's the attitude. But for ourselves on a journey to evolve, oh my God, I mean, this is so incredible. I mean, we can take leaps and bounds right now into a world that we never even imagined is possible. And that's what the new humanity is 100% about. It's basically taking information that's new to the world and taking it to heart and sharing with each other our experiences and what's going on. And this is happening all across the country. It really is. This is now underway. You know, we might look like a little snowball coming down the mountain, but we're heading for an avalanche. You know, we're gigantic, and this is really occurring. So if you feel a little doom and gloom about the state of the world right now, you might want to put your ear to the ground and realize how many of us there are. We're going to create a new nation on Earth. And it's going to really be based on a whole new way of living. And it's not about, you know, how much money we have. It's about a new stage of awareness, which is the determining factor in abundance as well. So that's something to look forward to. On the other 10,000 things that Kirsten said I should talk about, we'll just kind of wait a little bit on that because they'll drown everybody.
And just FYI, you know, Rennie says that, you know, gatherings are happening, and one is going to be happening here on the 21st and 22nd of September in Broomfield, Colorado, that we're calling New Humanity Arise and Awaken, and I'll put the link to that in the chat area so you can check that out as well. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I don't know if you could still hear my audio or anything.
We can.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I think I was just looking to kind of pick your brain more. I don't think I have very many questions, surprisingly, like at this point of time, on this kind of like reflection about life and stuff. I'm definitely leaning more towards soaking in, you know, new information that feels everything, all kinds of right. It's kind of, you know, as open-minded as I am, I have a pretty fine-tuned filter, I feel like, at this point, where when I hear someone speak about things as general about like life and stuff, I kind of either want to hear it or I don't.
Yeah.
That's
Because
your
knowingness.
It's gonna benefit me or it's not. And I have all of the faith in humanity because I do continue to be shocked by, the way meeting people and hearing the things they have to say, and having a lot of faith in them, and then back it myself and thinking like, okay, we're all kind of getting it little by little, and it does feel like very premature, at least for me and my life and the people that I come across. I feel like a lot of people are shy to kind of open up about philosophy and spirituality and those deeper things, but I think I'm finding my voice in my ears, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to continue to learn and grow this in this fashion.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing, for myself, and I know I speak for Rennie too, is, as you go out and speak, the one tenet that we always hold is you go where you're invited. It's never about trying to proselytize or make somebody understand, or why are they not getting it or anything. It's just,
of course,
you go where you're invited. And that's a very graceful way to move through the world. And if nobody wants to hear it, well, at least there's maybe one person that might want to hear. So thank you. I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course. Thank you guys.
Yeah. All right. Who else? Don't be shy. Okay. Come on. This is a coach-a-thon. This was not a webinar. There we go. Jeffrey. Hi, Jeffrey. Okay, we can't hear you right now.
Is that better?
There we go.
Okay, I had to unmute.
Can you speak up a little? You're very quiet.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, so just keep projecting.
Okay, yes. So, since our last little seminar, had a lot of practice to identifying my egos. And so, yeah, it's been interesting because when we did the meditation last year, tried doing that, and but I've had plenty of opportunities lately to identify my egos and to release them with appreciation and gratitude. I've recognized ones I never even knew existed, so it's been quite helpful.
Nice. Yeah, notice there's a common theme through everything that we do, huh?
Yeah.
Always.
So, I just want to let you, I'm sorry. I just want to
No,
let
go
you
ahead.
know that,
Go ahead.
That's so I just, I was very excited about it, too. It's like, wow, this is awesome. I just saw another ego I didn't even know I had a name, and I can name it and I can release it. Thank you for showing me a window into myself.
There you go. Now we're working it. Very good. Did you have any question or anything that you want our support with?
No, not really. I've just been having plenty of opportunities lately to, explore those and release them. And, really, I feel a huge difference when I can recognize them, feel them coming up, name them, beat them. Where in the past I would have been anxious, angry, upset, whatever. And it really has made a big difference in my life.
Good. Excellent. Okay, good. So who else? Who else would like to ask a question or get some support? What is on in your life right now that is challenging? And we can take it further than just relationship. I mean, it doesn't have to be in that segment either. If there's anything else, we can support you with right now. Let's let's do that. Okay. Well, hello there, Chris. Oh, wait, you're muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, there you are. Hey there.
Hi, I wanted to I thought it'd be useful to get more detail on what you were talking about with the example you gave on the interaction between self and other in terms of victim and blame. And the second part of that question is how we relate that to judgment. Judgment being seen by the ego as a tool for survival. We're constantly evaluating, is it safe, is it not safe, for example. And is there ways that you've found that can help people kind of suspend that judgment impulse as well?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so we didn't get the first part, the interaction with self and other, but I understand the second part, which was about judgment, and you're identifying judgment as, you know, what I would call discernment, in staying in able to stay safe and make decisions to stay safe. Is that correct?
All right. So yeah, the first question was just to get more detail on that whole dynamic of victim and blame. I think it'd be helpful to just kind of hear more detail about that whole interaction process, as far as how we can be really aware of how we're, in a sense, creating and drawing to us the people, you know, in whatever relationship, business, reflect an aspect of ourselves, and then when they show it to us, what a golden opportunity gift it is for us to see that and do some exploration to heal that part of ourselves. And then the second part is this tool of judgment that the ego mind uses to evaluate, with the idea that we have to judge in order to keep safe. And how can we all suspend that and find an alternate way of being safe besides judging one another?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, I'd like to introduce a new concept in your first question, which is that thoughts, when you have a thought or a think in your brain, it doesn't just go poof and disappear. It does to us. We think it's gone, but actually, if you could look at subtle energies, you could see that the skin organ is secreting a airborne hormone, and it's wrapping around the thought form. So you got a chemical medium wrapping around the thought form that then is lighter than air, and it floats up into the atmosphere. It's not a living being, but it has a form of intelligence. And what it does is it coalesces with all similar forms of thought forms. So as a result, you get these groupings of thoughts. You know, we're calling them gestalts or collectives, thought collectives. And one of the very largest thought collectives that humanity has created is the victim gestalt. So if you hold the perception that if one thing doesn't get me, something else will, you can tie into this gestalt. And literally, it's a chemical medium that attaches to the gestalt in the sky and comes straight down and attaches to the crown of your head. This is a chemical medium. So it's a chemical medium means science could discover if this is true or not. And then the gestalt itself can send an electrical signal down that chemical medium into your brain and actually create a brain story that, you know, this really is dangerous. This really is, you know, I'm in trouble here. You know, reinforcing the perception that you live in a victim world. So one of the keys when you first understand that the victim mindset is coming from yourself is to also cut circuits Okay, they root in the blood cell. And so you can just go in with your spiritual scissors and cut them right at the root, cut all circuits to all collectives, all gestalts that are pulling your strings, which is basically all of them. There's no requirement. In fact, it's in your best interest to basically be an individual, free of human collectives. And so this collective and this thought form is going to basically look at people and judge, you know, and so it is an ego. It basically sees that it's righteous, that it's doing it correctly, and you can, I mean, if you take even an hour sometime and just watch your thoughts, I mean, it's shocking how many judgments you'll have in 1 hour. Everywhere you look, I mean, they're subtle, little tiny things, just how a person looks, how they walk, how they're not doing it right. I mean, you know, watching television, is there any judgments when you watch television? It just goes on and on. So the understanding of this whole process, blaming, finger pointing, this sort of, I mean, this is endemic to the human condition right now. And it's so accelerating in the world right now that it's threatening our civilization itself. But what it really is doing is that the awareness that's judging and the physical body that holds the awareness are not the same species. We think they are because the body and the awareness, you know, the body will just go anywhere the awareness wants to go. It's thought reactive. But in fact, every time you have a judgment of another person, it registers in your body chemistry as a judgment on your own body. And then it creates the chemistry of fear, stress, worry, and judgment inside yourself. So, I mean, I could go on, but that should give anybody pause to ponder, you know, why in the world would you ever want to judge again? Anybody, blame anything, or tie into any gestalt that blames or sees the world from a perspective that's not, you know, that's incorrect. You know, the world is not an unfavorable, dangerous place unless we perceive it that way. If you basically think that something's going to get you around every corner, then yeah, that's what you'll create. Whatever you think is what you're going to create. That's just the physics. That's just how it works. It really is. So, yeah.
One of the things that I've learned is to any time I have any kind of inkling of a thought that he did it to me, she did it to me, it's her fault, his fault, its fault, whatever's fault, that I've trained myself to make that a red flag immediately and have it be like, oh, there's my victim ego, there's my blame ego, and really become absolutely vigilant about that kind of phraseology, and then becoming aware of the addiction to that in my own body chemistry. It's like, you know, we want to blame others. It's so much easier to blame others than to take full responsibility for our own actions. Oh my God, it is so. It is definitely an addictive cycle that we get into when we don't fully understand the nature of this reality. So basically the practice on that one is anytime you find yourself saying it's that person's, that thing's, that hers' fault, that should be immediately your red flag to say, okay, first cut circuits to the gestalt, because that's, you know, those have amazing influences on us, and then really look at the egos behind it. And so one of the things that I've learned with this material is to really set aside some of the things that I thought I knew. And so one key thing is we don't just have one ego. We have, I hate to say it, but we have thousands and thousands and thousands of egos. As I was explaining to Alicia, you know, they were created over time. And so I've done this one time, or well, several times, but, you know, sit down somewhere and you know, just people watch. You know, we all love to people watch, but watch yourself watching people and just watch what egos start jumping onto that personality seat, one after the next, after the next, after the next. It is absolutely fascinating once you can understand there's not just one ego, but thousands of them, and they're all sort of circling around this personality seat looking for the opportunity to jump on. And so once you can understand that mechanism, then you can see them and then you can take control of them. And so judgment is as much an ego as all these others. So see it, see the judgment, see it, name it, Judge Judy, you know, whatever you want to name it, and don't become it. Just let it go. That's how you gain control back over your life, because right now, frankly, these are all, you're like a marionette on these ego strings. That's what it is. And so part of waking up, part of getting to this next stage of evolution is to say, I'm going to look at everything that is trying to pull my strings, and I'm going to take back my life. I'm going to take back this queendom, this kingdom, and take back, you know, it's almost, it's a royalty state of being, not the arrogant kind. It's more the graceful, confident, in yourself place where you say, no, I am not going to be controlled by these mechanisms anymore. And as Rennie said earlier, it's a complex subject. There's a lot of layers to it. So it's really a lifetime work, but you know, we're seeing people make changes that are absolutely stunning. So I'm going to unmute you again. There was a little bit of background noise, so I unmuted. Well, so did you have any follow-up question to that, or did that make sense?
Yeah, that made a lot of sense and was a lot of good information and new ways of looking at all that. So you know, I'll just let that sit. You know, it's a big topic that I could come up with more questions, but no, that was good. Thank you.
Cool. Nice to see you, or well, hear you, I should say.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we look forward to with the birth of a new humanity in the world is the distinction between the brain and the mind. You know, most people, if you listen to a person talk, they kind of, the mind and the brain are one and the same, but the brain actually is located in the skull, and the mind is located in an electrical field that comes off of the skin organ. And the mind has a capacity to give you guidance which takes into account every relevant factor in a way that the brain can't even imagine. It's so superior to the brain in every way. So in this thing of blaming and pointing the finger and refusing to accept that we're this creative wonder, we have fractured our mind. Psychologists would, you know, describe ourselves as having a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and an unconscious mind. And to basically unlock the mind is more than just quieting the brain. You need to actually heal the fracture in your mind, bring the mind back together again. And the way you do that is with a very simple tool. Everything that comes in front of you, you acknowledge that you created that, even though you don't know why. So rather than basically saying he did it, she did it, Trump did it, you know, that you know, it's always somebody else outside yourself. You don't reinforce that at all. You reinforce your own creative ability. You've created this even though you don't know why. And that simple understanding, repeated over and over and over again, can heal the fractures of the mind. And with that, a new world opens up for the human race. You know, the mind lives in simultaneity, not in linear time. And the mind has complete knowingness about anything at all in which you're curious. So it's a transforming experience to step into your mind. And it's really right before us to do this. And we have people that we see every day that are just dancing all around us. They really are. You know, we're getting really, I mean, knowingness is increasing with everybody who's doing this work. You know, if you're in business, you know, is it helpful to basically see what's coming, to know what's around the corner? You know, you can do an executive search and get references about a person and so forth, but you can also ask your mind just to give you knowingness about someone you're thinking you might want to associate with. And the mind won't have a judgment, but it'll tell you things that no executive search will ever uncover. It can see to the depths of everything. And this is what's in front of us if we'll really do this work.
So we're at a quarter after the hour, and I just wanted to take a little bit of time here and talk about this gathering that's coming up. You know, we struggle sometimes to convey how important and powerful we feel this gathering is, and I just wanted to lay it out again, what it is that we're looking to accomplish. You've heard us talk about these absolutely amazing, you know, concepts, and really a very, very different way of approaching relationships, approaching ourselves, and looking at how can we, as a collective humanity, make a conscious evolutionary leap. And those of us who are called to do that, how do we find each other? I mean, you know, some of you probably relate to this when you're doing this work and you start feeling more and more like an alien in the world. And really, there are millions of us, as Rennie said, and what we want to do is to create the space where we can come together so we can practice together. This has nothing to do with creating a new religion or creating a new cult or anything. We're working on the basis of frameworks, not belief systems. These are frameworks that are base concepts, and then you get to express into them who you truly are. But we need to have the know-how first, and so that's really the first element of this new humanity work, is this foundational framework and laying that in the most solid way. And you got a little taste of that today as we were talking, you know, specifically about relationships, but as usual we went into all kinds of different tributaries, and I hope you got a sense that the rabbit holes are far and wide and deep and never ending. And really, so that's the first invitation. We need to lay the framework and the foundation to make this conscious evolutionary leap, and then come together as a new humanity and create the force that can actually have an impact in the world, that can actually come, you know, it's this concept of be the change to change the world. I mean, Gandhi is coming in full force right now with this work and his concept of that. And so we want to bring together the new humanity, those of you who are feeling called to be part of this next evolutionary leap. So let's come together. Let's have that interaction in physical form. We do a lot of these webinars. We're getting, you know, we're doing a lot of connection this way, but nothing supplants the ability to be in a room together, to look in each other's eyes, to see the light coming out, and to actually start, you know, coalescing the force of the new humanity. And then from that place, from that new stage of awareness, from that coming together and creating the force, then we get to say, what kind of a world would we create together? What's our focus for the new humanity? And there's a whole fun conversation that we're going to have at this gathering on the 21st and 22nd about, you know, let's take this meme of creating a new nation on earth. Okay, create a nation created by the new humanity for humanity. What would we create? What are the different lenses through which we would look to design our built environment, to create our governance, to create our education, all of our systems and infrastructure? When we can look through a different lens of, let's say, respect. What would the world would look like if not only humans had inalienable rights, but the earth as well? Wow, what kind of a world would we create with that kind of a perception? Or respect being at the underlying foundation of everything that we do. So we will play with that concept, and we're going to do something called the Gaia game, or at least the beginning stages of that. And we'll come together to really start designing that. And then day 2, we're going to do a deep dive into what we're calling the Earth Whisperers. And why don't you lay that out just a little bit?
Well, there is one issue that affects everybody who's a human being on Earth, and that's what the Earth is up to right now. We all wonder about it, the floods, the fires, the volcanic eruptions. You know, are we in trouble? I mean, is it what's going on? You know, so we can turn to science, which really doesn't know. We can have conjecture about it ourselves, but it turns out that the Earth is actually self-aware. So you can there's an ancient know-how of very rare human beings back when people migrated. You know, that where people actually did talk to the Earth, and the Earth talked back. And these people could move a tornado with their mind. They could move soot and smoke after a forest fire into an open area or into the ocean with their mind, with permission from the Earth. This was the know-how that was completely lost to modern time, but now it's returned. And so on this second day, as Kirsten's describing, the Earth herself will give a report of the weather. And all I can say of what you should bring for that report is bring your seatbelt. I mean, really, to understand what is coming here and what is underway, and really the role that we could play as Earth Whisperers with the know-how that's now returned. It's so inspiring. I mean, it really is, and informative. So yeah, I mean, I'm all pumped up about the second day. I probably see, you know, it's just like that this can happen anywhere in the world. You know, there are really rare times when a meeting occurs that goes down in history and creates a legacy for the future. We saw it in the early days of the 60s, that there were meetings that, you know, okay, 150 people come. Doesn't seem like such a big deal, but it's a very big deal. So this meeting in Colorado, September 21st, is a very big deal. And if you're drawn to any of this, you really want to think about being there.
Yeah. So I put the link in the chat box. It's ffh.org/New Humanity 2018.
The caps.
That's been fixed.
Oh, okay.
That issue is
we fixed our website.
We fixed our issue.
Okay.
Yeah, and really, if you have questions about it, feel free to reach out to us. But you all are staying. I mean, every one of you has stayed. So there's clearly you resonate with this. You resonate with what we're saying. And this is the time you all, I mean, I was in Germany just this last August visiting my dad. And I was talking to people, and everybody is seeing something is up in the world. What on earth is going on Earth? I mean, that was really the sensation. And I had questions, I had conversations with people who were preparing for, you know, a time when, you know, food wasn't going to be available readily or the electricity was out. I mean, people are becoming aware that we are getting into a time like no other. And so how do we choose to enter this time? Do we choose to go right down into the hysteria, into panic, into, you know, where pretty much most of the world is going to go? Or are we going to choose to make this leap of life, to make this stage of awareness leap, and come into this time calm-centered, full of respect, knowing we create our own reality, and able to support both the Earth and humanity in this time of rebalancing. The Earth is starting to rebalance. We're seeing it everywhere. And so we have a choice as to how we step up to that. And so that's the invitation. We need to lay the framework and the foundation for it. But then from there, we can soar together. And it's so valuable to be in person with each other. And that's why we decided to call everybody into Colorado. So it's Broomfield, Colorado. And we try to keep it as as inexpensive as possible. So it's only $3.97. That's all it is. You will be fed during the day and lunchtime all throughout the day for the both days, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So please consider coming, and if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're available for phone calls and figuring out how to help you get there. So just let us know. But we're here. Our mission is to ignite, train, and coalesce the new humanity. So we're putting ourselves out there. The question is, are you coming towards us? And so we invite you to come with us on this journey, because heck, I mean, this is the best show in town as far as I'm concerned, really. And so I hope you consider joining us. So again, ffh.org/New Humanity 2018. And we hope to see you there. And thank you for showing up today, and the questions you had, conversations we had. And I hope this was valuable for all your relationships, a different way of looking at them, and see, let us know when you, as you practice this new understanding and implement it. We would love to hear, how it's going. So with that, we're signing off. Ta-ta, everybody. Take care. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and we will hopefully see you in September. Take care. Bye.